Okay, so we are going to look at some cylinders and ellipses in real life, I suppose. Let's start with our horizon line. Chuck it up here. Vanishing points, they can be nice and far away. So vanishing point 2 over to the right can be off in that direction. Vanishing point 1 over to the left, off in that direction somewhere. And let's imagine you have bought a Cybertruck, Tesla Cybertruck, and we're going to just quickly mock that up. So we'll start with, let's have it here, down the bottom. There's the front corner, drawing back to a horizon line in the distance, to a vanishing point in the distance. Same on that side. Same on this side, over there somewhere. It's quite long in this direction, so vertical there, and then off to our vanishing point over there somewhere. And it's not quite as wide as it is long. So over there somewhere. And now on the front, let's imagine it's got this kind of bumper side profile, the bonnet going up to its kind of like cab section. It comes down for the pickup truck bit at the back, out towards there. So there is it's the very basics of a Cybertruck side on. Probably have no idea what I'm doing, but hopefully this makes sense in a second. Going off to the vanishing point in that direction, vanishing point over there, following to the vanishing point on the left direction, same sort of angle up to here. Obviously we've got that back part, this bit's going off over to there somewhere. It would have a line going down the back, which I didn't need to draw, but just to give you an idea. And there you can see our Cybertruck. I could probably get away with drawing over these bits to make it stand out a bit more. So remember, our construction line's super light, and our detailed lines can get a little bit darker. That's a terrible line. That looks awful. That should be tapering a bit more like that. So let's just rub that one out. Like so. Go down there. And then we've got this front part as well. Okay, so there is our Cybertruck. Maybe you've got a little bit of like a hollow bit in the back for the pickup section. That looks something like that. All good. We could add loads more detail, but we're not going to. We're going to add some ellipses on here. So let's start with some really basic headlights. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to put them into a box. So there's one box. We could draw this all the way across to keep it nice in perspective. There's another box. Okay. And as we said in the past, so if we think about looking at something straight on, it's a perfect circle. If we look at it from a bit where it's been turned, perspective-wise, it becomes your ellipse. You've got your long axis, you've got your short axis. In terms of how this is going to work, we would have a long axis and a short axis through here. Now, our short axis is going to be going off in that direction. And if we have our vertical cross, our horizontal cross, it needs to go to that center point. So following this line back to that piece, it's going to be something like that. And therefore, our long axis is perpendicular to it. So something like that. Do the same over here. Like this, you've got your short axis through that point off to this vanishing point in the distance. Again, I'll show you with a ruler. So it's going to be not parallel to this line, but roughly parallel, because if it's parallel to this line, it's going to be meeting about halfway through the two. So let's just say it's roughly like that for our short axis, and then our long axis perpendicular like so. And what you're going to do is you're going to be adding your ellipse on to there. Something like this. Something like this. And there you have, I can draw that a little bit darker, two headlights on your stupid little Cybertruck. but it's in perspective. Again, that's the key thing. So what we're trying to learn at the moment is how to keep things in perspective. Without some wheels, your Cybertruck's going nowhere, so we want to add some wheels on as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to place a box or a face on the side of our truck here. So let's say that we want this front wheel somewhere like this. These can be potentially quite big. We'll have a little look and see what our scale is like. And all I've done is I've got two nice vertical lines here. I've got my line going back in perspective to my vanishing point. I'm going to do the same at the back. So I can just extend that one through and extend this one through, and then add a little square section there. And that keeps all of these bits in perspective. So front wheel, back wheel. Exactly the same process, except now our short axis goes in this direction. Now we can get our cross down the middle. Again, in perspective. So this vertical line is obviously easy, halfway along. This horizontal line is going back to my vanishing point off in the distance. And the short axis is going to my vanishing point in this distance. So it needs to be in between this line and this line somewhere. We're going to roughly go with it looking like that. And the same, this one's a slightly more angled, something like that probably. And then we're going to go perpendicular on these lines. So perpendicular here is about there, and perpendicular here is about there. We can then add our ellipse on. And we can add our ellipse on here as well. And I've attempted to touch the corners, the cross where the vertical and horizontal cross was for both of them. Now to give it some thickness, what you would do is you would extend this box out and you draw another box. It's a bit messy, and then you draw another ellipse. Just turn it around. Another ellipse on there. Do exactly the same here, extend this out. Vertical, back to my vanishing point. And then we can add another ellipse on here like so. Obviously I'm doing this very quick. Then you join those two ellipses up, the bottom and the top, top and the bottom. And I know it's hard to see, but if I draw over this with a fine liner, what we then have is some chunky wheels. On our Cybertruck. I've probably been a little bit too aggressive in terms of how the ellipse actually shows up compared to these ones, but hopefully you get the idea in terms of how you're placing your ellipse on the side. And you can just go around, go over your main body, and you'll have your Cybertruck. Those are definitely too aggressive. Now I'm looking back at it, it should have been more circular, which means I have probably gone a bit too tight with the top and the bottom, needed it to be a little bit more elongated. So have a little play with this, add some different shapes onto it. You can maybe even add, I don't know, you could add some sort of like siren on the top of it over here, and you could draw your box. You could extend that box up like so, going back in perspective. Then you could add your ellipse on the top, a small one, and a larger one on here. Bring those two together and you'll have some form of siren, some form of cone up there. So as I said, play around, add ellipses on, build your own little car. It doesn't have to be a pickup truck like this. It can be absolutely anything. But think about your vanishing points, think about how your ellipses work, and have a go.